Hello, VidLii. It's What here again. By now, I'm sure that many of you have heard the news about the site's new co-owner Aniki, as well as the new rules that have been added to VidLii's community guidelines. And while all of these events may seem like they're quite sudden, they've actually been brewing behind the scenes for quite a while. And in this video, I would like to discuss them and my thoughts on everything. And the first thing that I want to say is that I am still the same person that I've always been. And what I mean by this is that I'm still the same person who absolutely loves internet freedom and the Wild West atmosphere of old YouTube and the old internet. I still stand by everything that I said in my previous video that was a response to Trainium's video. I still 100% believe that far too many people on modern YouTube and the modern internet today are thin-skinned pussies and faggots who never would have survived in the old internet that I grew up in. I am completely unchanged in that regard, and in light of the recent changes to VidLii, maybe I have become even more staunch in my beliefs and in my love for the fun, freewheeling, rough and tumble environment that old YouTube and the old internet in general had. I still believe that people on the internet should have total fucking freedom to banter and troll and insult and call each other niggers and faggots and go on e-wars, because such an unrestrained environment where you feel like anything can happen is the most fun one. And again, I will never apologize for these beliefs and for my experiences growing up on the old internet. Now, what happened with VidLii recently is basically some of my very good friends were bringing some rather critical issues on VidLii to my attention, which, if they continued to be left as is, they could attract some really serious and unwanted legal attention to the site. You know, stuff like ISIS propaganda, Nazi edits that call for violence, even the gore, and especially gore depicting young children, are things that are very dangerous from a legal standpoint for me to host. That was the most critical issue, and it was something that they had been discussing with me for months. Another secondary reason is that I have always wanted VidLii to grow and to have as many users on it as possible, because things are more fun with more people. And I've always welcomed everybody on the site. And my friends were putting forth the argument to me that the controversial material that I just mentioned was preventing VidLii from having wider appeal and growing. And look, in a perfect world, everybody would be thick-skinned, and nobody would care about sharing a site with, some internet Nazis or gore shit posters. I certainly don't give a fuck, and I've never given a fuck about any of that stuff. In a perfect world, law enforcement wouldn't care, because it's just a bunch of fucking videos on your computer monitor. But unfortunately, law enforcement takes the internet too seriously, and too many people are also like thin-skinned pussies, basically. I wanted to give the site wider appeal because the greater activity and user base will make things more fun. But at the bare minimum, I didn't want to put the site at legal risk, because if it's seized by law enforcement and forced to shut down, then everybody loses. Now, about the new co-owner, Aniki, he's not some random stranger. He is a good personal friend of mine who shares the same goal as me. That is, he wants to see the site grow and become a fun place that emulates old YouTube, where users can do almost whatever they want. Making him the new co-owner was certainly not a decision that I made on a whim. It was something that he proposed to me a while ago, actually months ago, and which I had been thinking about for months. He is a very pragmatic person, more pragmatic than I am on issues of site administration and moderation. I am definitely more on the principled, freedom-loving, hands-off side when it comes to moderation. And that's definitely due to my experiences growing up on the old internet, which I will always treasure and I will always defend. But Aniki and I think that the two of us will make a really good pair, because we balance each other out on things for the ultimate benefit of VidLii. Now, with that being said, while we both did agree on the co-ownership and the new rules, there is one aspect of the recent events that was not to my intention, and that is the sudden bannings of many existing accounts with very little to no warning for videos that they had uploaded before the new rules were even introduced and before Aniki had even uploaded his announcement video. In fact, many users were banned a full day before Aniki even uploaded the announcement video and before I put up the banner announcement at the top of the site to give people some notice about the policy changes. This is something that I really did not enjoy seeing because it was my intention to give users a grace period of maybe a week or 2 weeks to familiarize themselves with the new community guidelines and give them some time to go back and delete any of their old uploads that are now against the new rules. It was also my plan and my intent for the staff not to issue retroactive punishments. That is, not to give strikes or bans for any videos that were uploaded before the new rules were introduced. And I wanted to do that out of concerns for fairness. But it was partly due to poor communication and an oversight in planning between me and Aniki, and also due to Aniki being like, I would describe it as overzealous and overeager in his enforcement of the new rules, which resulted in a lot of the channels, and some of them pretty big and well-known channels, being instantly banned for videos that weren't against the rules at the time that they were uploaded. And not only that, but these channels weren't even given enough time to prepare. In some cases, they weren't given any notice at all of the new rules. They were just banned without warning. And that still does not sit well with me. It wasn't handled well. It wasn't handled according to my plans or intentions. And I do feel bad about it. And I would like to apologize to those users for it. And actually, this is one of the few things that I will apologize for. I will never apologize for running VidLii as a free Wild West haven. I will never apologize for speaking freely and honestly and saying whatever the fuck I want. But I will apologize for what I believe was a wave of unfair bannings of some people who, even though they were controversial, and even though Aniki is not particularly fond of them, they still enjoyed using the site. You know, guys like Edit Lover, Angry Aryan 88, Aries 69, Chud 1488, The Crescent Klansman, XX Nigger Killer XX, FFMF, Alabama Neba, Ion the Racist. Like, I know who all of you niggas are. We may never have actually talked or interacted, but I check VidLii almost daily, and I'm well aware of all of you guys. It was my full intention before rolling out the new rules to give all of you fair notice and plenty of time to prepare, because I never like banning people. And that applies even to you guys who would upload, you know, your funny Nazi white pride Hyperborean edits, because I never cared about that stuff. That doesn't necessarily mean that I agreed with everything that was said or uploaded. I'm very, very far from being a Nazi or a white supremacist myself. But anyway, I never ever fucking cared about that stuff for moral, ethical, or ideological reasons, because I'm not a fucking moral fag, and it's just videos on the internet. You guys never offended me, you never made me angry or disgusted. I never had anything personal against any of you. I knew that you were just having fun and enjoying the site. And sometimes I would even laugh at the things that you guys uploaded or said. You guys were all VidLii users who did genuinely enjoy using the site. And I do feel bad, and I do apologize that you guys lost your accounts without getting at least a chance to prepare and to adjust to the changes. And again, I say that not because I agreed with the political viewpoints that you guys were espousing, but because you were users on VidLii, my website, no different from any of the other users. The new rules are for practical purposes only. They're not moral or ideological rules. And they weren't added lightly on a whim, because I am the type of person who, in any site or community that I manage, I try my best to resist having to add any new rules for as long as possible, because I still totally believe that in those chaotic and wild environments with large degrees of freedom, where you and everybody else can do whatever you want, that is where the most fun is. And I explained my views on this topic in much more detail in my previous video, The Fun Side of Old YouTube Clone Sites, So I'm not going to spend this entire video discussing it, but I do apologize to you guys for the retroactive surprise bans. But what's more important in the current moment is that VidLii is run more pragmatically now, and our goal now, which has always been my goal ever since I acquired the site, is to emulate the fun and the freedom of the old YouTube experience and to grow the site. But again, that pragmatism extends both ways. And just as we may add more rules for purely pragmatic reasons, we may also remove them later on, again, for purely pragmatic reasons, if removing them is in accordance with our goals and improves the site. Aniki understands and agrees with this. He's not a moral fag or ideological, which is one of the things that I respect about him. And while I can't say at the moment what will end up happening in the future, if we can achieve our goals for VidLii while also giving people more freedom, then I am 100% supportive of that. And I will make sure that Aniki sees it this way too. He balances out my tendencies, but I'm also here to balance him out too. I will make sure that he doesn't go overboard. And I think that this dynamic will ultimately benefit VidLii. And while I would have wanted some things to have been handled better and more fairly, like giving those users sufficient notice and a grace period to adjust instead of the sudden surprise bannings that happened, at the end of the day, I am going along with this. I am observing things, managing things, and I am most certainly interested to see what VidLii's future will be.